You always good to have you at the table. A new book for middle schoolers tells a first-hand account of one of the last known survivors of the transatlantic slave trade. His name was Cudjo Lewis. Barracoon was adopted by Ibram X. Kendi from an original work by Zora Neale Hurston. It's based on her interviews with Lewis in the late 1920s. Lewis describes being captured in Africa and put in barracks, or Barracoon is what they were called, before he was forced to go to America on a slave ship. Lewis also details a life he built once granted freedom. Ibram X. Kendi is the director of the Center for Anti-Racist Research at Boston University, and as CBS News contributor, we're very happy to have you here as always, Ibram X. Kendi. Why did you think that middle schoolers needed to hear this story? I love that at one point in the book you say past is present because of stories, and past is always teaching stories. Because this is brutal and this is raw, what this man went through.
Well, I think, in Germany, they teach young children about the Holocaust. In South Africa, they teach about apartheid. I think in the United States, it's critically important, and really in the Americas more broadly, for us to teach about slavery. Of course, we should teach in a developmentally appropriate form, and what better developmentally appropriate form than through the life story of someone who experienced it.
Now, Zora first started interviewing him. That's what I think is so cool. In 1927,
yes.
It took to 2018 for us to finally hear the story. How old was he at the time when she started talking to him?
He was pushing 90.
Yes,
He was pushing 90 years old. Yeah.
And give us a sense of what he went through, because he talks about it very descriptively.
Well, he was born in what's present-day Benin, West Africa, and he was captured as a teenager, taken from his homeland, brought to the Barracoons, eventually brought over to what's now Mobile, Alabama, and enslaved, and spent a few years in slavery, and then found freedom. And him and others who came across on this ship called Clotilda decided they wanted to create Africa Town because they missed Africa.
Of home.
Why do you think it was so hard for her to get the work published? She interviewed him in 1927, and the book wasn't published many, many years after that. Why?
Well, Zora was very serious about ensuring that readers not only knew Cudjo's story, but heard his voice. And so she was very keen on in ensuring that his voice, his vernacular, his language was in the story, and publishers pushed back, against that. But again, that was something that was incredibly important to her.
And when you say in his voice, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we're asking the same question. Yes. When you touch on language, you're very intentional about how this book reads. And you talk about how Ebonics, or the language that has been lost, is something that you wanted to make sure readers digested. Why were you so intentional about that?
Well, first, because Zora was serious about it. And so I tried to figure out a way to ensure that middle graders could read the text, but also hear Cudjo's voice.
Yeah.
And of course, that was not easy, but I thought it was incredibly important.
Did you have concern that it might be confusing at all?
Well, I think that was my job as a writer, to ensure that it was as legible as possible for middle graders.
I mean, I think it's tough because we were talking a little bit, and we talked about this with the last book that you wrote. As a parent, and you know this, you struggle to try to get your children to be able to speak in a way that they can function in all levels of society. And I wonder if there's a concern from you that, a child who perhaps is struggling with that would read a book like this and not understand the story because they're spending a lot of time trying to decipher the language.
Well, it's interesting because there are stories that my daughter, who's 7 years old, reads with multiple languages. And it's obviously a harder story to read, but as a parent, I actually want her to learn multiple languages. I want her to hear voices spoken in different ways.
And challenge your intellect.
Exactly. And so that's how I understand that teachers and parents hopefully would receive this story.
Why do you think, because I struggled too when I was reading it. My brain went into overtime. I was raised in such a house, Ibram, where proper grammar was important.
Same.
I was corrected if I said, can I have so-and-so? No, it's not can. What is it? It's may.
Slang. Slang was not allowed.
No, slang was not, yes. I was raised, did we have the same thing?
Maybe.
So how do we do that balance? I have the same question with Vlad. I think when you're older and you understand, you can discern the difference. But I think when you're a little kid and you're reading, I worried about that too.
Well, I think we can understand it as a different language.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think
of it as such.
Yeah, and think of it as such, and appreciate it as such, and convey it to our children as such, and also in a nation that conveys itself as multicultural.
Yeah.
That means we have to teach our kids to accept and appreciate multiple languages.
And preservation is key as well.
Exactly.
Especially in a day and age where they're banning books, which
Yeah.
ultimately bans history, our history.
And this book was pretty much banned for almost a century, which is why I'm so glad
It's so
out.
glad it's out.
Yeah.
And that's why we're glad you're here. Thank
That's
you very
right.
much. Ibram X. Kendi. The name of the book is called Barracoon. It goes on sale tomorrow wherever you like to buy your books.
I just want a night, getting high with friends, night and night on the town, killing time again. No high heels coming down the city streets, no drunk boys bumping, can I buy you a drink? Turn my phone.
Okay, Miss Brittany, that's called Night In from country singer-songwriter. Her name is Brittany Spencer. You remember Anthony, as in Mason, first introduced us to this rising star 3 years ago. I remember I went and got her music after listening to Anthony's piece. Since then, the Baltimore native has signed her very first record deal, gone on her first headlining tour, and performed with some of her music heroes. And now she's talking to Anthony, as in Mason, again about her debut album. I love this title. It's called My Stupid Life, and her approach to songwriting.
There's no high like your first love, no better time than the time that we're standing in.
Brittany Spencer likes to write while she drives through Nashville.
Something about the road can open up a person.
It's where the chorus came to her for her song, My Stupid Life.
Oh, then I love my stupid life, my stupid life.
The title track of her debut album.
I wrote that right here in my Honda CRV.
On the album's lead single, Bigger Than the Song, the Baltimore-born artist pays homage to her musical idols.
Makes you wanna be fancy like Reba, a queen like Aretha, in love like Johnny and June.
I hope this actually connects with people because it's bigger than the song.
Nice plug.
I hate myself for doing it.
Better fill up that gas, boy. I don't wanna take it slow.
The 35-year-old singer loves to go thrifting,
Sweet and low.
so we went with her to Music City Vintage.
See, this is what I like. You got a Led Zeppelin shirt right next to Puff Daddy. This is how I listen to music. This is exactly.
You can learn a lot about Brittany here,
This is my little pin collection that I have on the road.
especially from her pin collection.
Pink Dolphin, Johnny Cash, more Johnny Cash, Run DMC. Yep.
About her influences and aspirations.
Oh, and here's my dream car. On the road again.
About her friends
My friends call me B, so I have a little honey.
and her family.
My grandmother loves porcelain chickens. She has them all around her house. So it's like pins, like no one can see that from the stage, but it makes me feel good.
Makes you feel like they're with you?
Yeah, I do.
She's shared the stage with many of her heroes, touring with Willie Nelson, performing
The world.
and in London last summer at the BSP Hyde Park Festival. She played on the same bill with Bruce Springsteen. And the Chicks, who she watched from backstage.
I'm sorry, I'm just watching country idols in concert, and this is really special. This is really cool.
What was that like?
Gosh, I thought you'd never ask. I had so much fun. I fell in love with country music because I fell in love with them.
She's even recorded one of their songs.
Cowboy, take me away.
I think of everyone that I've gotten to meet, I feel like I've gotten to meet myself more than anything.
Yeah.
And
And what have you found when you met yourself?
A lot of things. I think one of the things I've met is just how much I've suppressed so many of my emotions throughout my life. And the road doesn't let you do that.
The road doesn't.
The road does not let you do that.
Bruised and I'm broken, but my heart is open. Let's go deep.
I feel like you just come face to face with all of that on the road. And I'm so thankful for therapy. I really am. It got bad, Anthony. Like, I was having panic attacks, anxiety attacks.
Which has to be
a mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it literally could send me into a spiral. It's like, this thing makes me so happy. Why am I so miserable right now?
Yeah.
Why am I so sad? Why is this so heavy? The core of who you are is put to the test constantly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a plus-size black girl from Baltimore City in Nashville doing country music. On paper, that sounds weird as hell.
When you started to have that conversation with yourself, how did it go?
Where do we start? I'm still learning, I guess, my worth. How many times have I let someone make me feel like I wasn't enough? And I'm like, looking back through my life, and I'm like, dang, man, like it feels like personal negligence. How am I going to be honest in music? I'm not honest in the mirror. Like, the thing that made me fall in love with country music was how honest you could be. I feel like I know what I want more than I ever have.
What is that?
I want to give everything I've got to this world for better. I wish there was life navigation. Siri, get yourself together. Help me out.
But somehow, Brittany Spencer is finding her way.
Oh, I know where we are. Yep, Martin's Barbecue's on the right-hand side. How in the world?
You did amazing. You have an inner homing device.
Apparently.
Yeah, you are a GPS system.
Wow. And I knew where I was supposed to go all along.
I love Brittany Spencer's voice. I love her spirit. She's an amazing woman, and I'm very grateful she was so candid about what she's been through. Because you look at someone like her and you think, everything's starting to go her way, and you don't realize, what being on the road puts an artist through. It's a lot.
Yeah.
I love what she says. How can she be honest in her music if she's not honest when she looks in the mirror? Yeah. But then, Anthony, this is why your pieces are so profound. You end the piece with her saying, I knew where I was all along. Mm-hmm. That, to me, kind of is a metaphor for what she's been talking about.
It's a lot, yeah. That's exactly. I think she's discovering how deeply she loves country music because she's put up with a lot to be there. She's been in Nashville 10 years. Yeah. She moved from Baltimore 10 years ago. And it has, the first 5 years, not easy. But she will tell you there were a lot of people who've lifted her up. And you saw a lot of them in this story.
I like she describes herself a creative nomad, personal negligence. I love that phrase, personal negligence.
That was
like that?
good.
Life navigation. Yeah. So when do we get the new music? Because I remember when you first introduced us.
It's out now.
I love her voice, so I can get it now.
It's out now.
I will get it today.
Can't wait to listen. You
Great,
did it again,
Brittany.
Anthony.
Yes,
well
did
done.
It again.
I love this series. It's called Changing the Game, and it highlights extraordinary women making a difference. This morning, we're introducing you to Zora Neale Hurston, who is the CEO and co-founder of Blue Land. Blue Land specializes in eco-friendly cleaning products with the goal of eliminating single-use plastic. The products come in tablet or powder form designed to be mixed with just ordinary tap water. Yes. Zora Neale Hurston joins us now. Good morning. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my daughter, Celine.
I know. It just gets better and
better.
Well,
you were saying that back in the green room. And so with young children, even if you don't have young children, tell me why you were inspired to start this company, because you were transitioning your son to formula, your oldest son, and you were being confronted with the idea of microplastics, which we've talked about here on this show.
Yeah, so that's right. When I became a new mom, I was doing research into the water that I would use to mix with this baby formula, and I was horrified to learn that there's hundreds of pieces of microplastics in our drinking water, and that's regardless of whether you drink tap water or bottled water. And that's because all this plastic that we're consuming as a society is breaking down, is entering our waterways and our oceans, and it's breaking down to these tiny pieces of plastic that are now showing back up in the water we drink, the food we eat, and the formula that I was making my newborn baby. So I decided to just, it felt like a no-brainer for me to do my part and try to completely cut out single-use plastic from my family's lives. And
I love, Sarah, that you said it felt like a no-brainer, because you know what I did? Turn on the water, put it on the front. It never occurred to you. Yes,
right?
It never occurred to me to research the water.
To be the change you want to see in the world.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, that's right.
And so then you thought, okay, we can change this. How?
Yeah, so I thought we could change this. You know, I realized that even though I was a really well-intentioned consumer at that point, it felt impossible. Like, everything seems to come packaged in plastic.
Then did you remember your dad's words?
Yeah, and my dad's words were, you know, he'd always ask, how do you eat an elephant? And the answer is just one bite at a time. And it felt like with this, plastic pollution is a huge elephant. Yeah. And I guess Blueland is my bite. You know, I became really inspired and motivated to find a way to make it easier for everyone.
So did you eat the trunk first? So what did you do exactly?
Yeah, so I mean, at that point, had this idea for creating these dry tablets, because most consumers don't realize that many of our everyday cleaning products, they're mostly water.
Including the stuff we put on our face
water.
And the stuff that, not just the stuff we ingest, but the stuff that we put on our face or put our food in.
Totally. So, I mean, as a consumer, then you're paying mostly for a ton of water and a new plastic bottle each time, which makes no sense.
And then we're throwing away the plastic bottle.
And then we're throwing away, exactly. And so we created these dry refill tablets.
Okay, so show us how it works.
Yeah, and so by making them dry, that enabled us to package it in paper instead of plastic.
Okay, all right.
And so this is an example of our hand soap. And so we offer these refillable forever bottles. You simply fill it up with warm water, which I have here, and you drop in a tablet. And then that's it. No shaking or stirring required. You see, it's starting to effervesce really nicely.
And it's so simple. What I love
is it makes the water safer. What's the difference between the blue and the yellow here?
Yeah, and so those are our cleaning sprays. The yellow is our multi-surface cleaner, and our blue is our glass and mirror cleaner.
Got it. But what I love about this, it's a simple idea, but you launched it right before the pandemic. And did you were probably worried when the country went into lockdown, but it ended up being a boon for you. How?
Yeah, because I mean, we launched in 2019. We were a baby business, and the pandemic hit, and I was like, oh my goodness, we're toast. But it ultimately ended up being a positive thing for us.
Because we were all cleaning.
Because everyone was cleaning like crazy.
We were cleaning everything.
Like crazy.
Our
doing
food.
Laundry like crazy. So they were washing their dishes, washing their clothes, and washing their hands. I mean, we were singing songs about washing our hands. Yeah. And people didn't want to go into stores, and we started selling our products online at blueland.com.
And you call it Blueland, you're wearing blue, you call it Blueland why?
Yes.
It's more than just your favorite color.
Yes. Yeah. You know, we wanted something simple and beautiful and inspirational, something that represented, you know, the utopia and the world that we want to all live in, and restoring the health of our oceans and our planet.
Well, Sarah, bravo to you.
Bravo. Right.
Job well done. Job well done. Thank you, Sarah. Pie to you. That'll do it for us. We always like to end on a good note.
Yes.
Sarah, you were a very good note.
Great note, Sarah. Congratulations.
We'll see you tomorrow on CBS Mornings when we'll have complete.
For listening, we'll be back tomorrow in your feed and Monday through Friday on your local CBS stations, starting at 7 a.m.
Hey, Prime members, you can listen to CBS Mornings on the go ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the Amazon Music app today. Or you can listen ad-free with Wondery Plus in Apple Podcasts. Before you go, tell us about yourself by completing a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.
I'm Mo Rocca, and I'm excited to announce Season 4 of my podcast, Mobituaries. I've got a whole new bunch of stories to share with you about the most fascinating people and things who are no longer with us. From famous figures who died on the very same day to the things I wish would die, like buffets. Listen to Mobituaries with Mo Rocca on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
It's playoff time in the NFL, and on our show, Pick Six, part of the CBS Sports Podcast Network, we go deep on everything that's happening on the road to Las Vegas. Hosts Will Brinson, Ryan Wilson, and John Breach are joined by analysts like Pete Prisco, Brady Quinn, Leger Douzable, Katie Mox, Alex Selznick, RJ White, and Emory Hunt to tackle the football landscape from all angles. It's the postseason, and you need to stay up on everything that goes down as we gear up for the Super Bowl. Pick Six has you covered 6 days a week, from game recaps, gambling lines, insight for former players, and bowl predictions, so that you'll always be on top of the action. as teams vie to lift the Lombardi Trophy high. Pick Six is a must-listen. Download and follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere podcasts are found.